This is the How'd You Do It podcast, and I'm your host, Lyle Wilkes. I believe that people have more to offer and knowledge to share than they ever give themselves credit for. So with that, my goal is to deep dive into the success stories of business owners, entrepreneurs, and community icons so they can share the road they traveled and what they learned along the way. Welcome to episode 10 of the How'd You Do It podcast. Today, I interview David Finlayson. He is the owner, or one of the owners, of the Epicure and Jack's Tavern here in the area. Currently, it used to be known as the Fantail. He has totally rebranded and brought new life back into the restaurant. He's got a really great story. He's been in the restaurant game for years and also a machinist, was in the military. He's got a really, really great story. We dive into a lot about what it takes, embracing change, which I think we all need to do, and just what it takes to be successful, especially in the restaurant game. So take a listen. I know you'll enjoy it. Well, David, thank you for coming on. I'm excited to talk about it. You've got one of the most happening spots in Prattville area, some new changes, some great new menu options, and you're the owner of the Epicure and Jack's Tavern. So tell me a little bit how you, before we get into the restaurant and what all you offer and the changes that are made there, I want to know about you. I want to know where you came from. Are you local to the area? Did you grow up here?
I came from Crenshaw County, Luverne, Alabama. Okay. And I have tried not to go back too very much.
Okay.
I love it. Had a good raising there, but this is where we are now. This is our home. So we're going to say Millbrook, right?
Yeah. Millbrook.
We got roots down now. So,
I got you. So have you always been involved? So tell me a little bit of the backstory. Like, have you always been involved with the restaurant business, or?
So there's a little bit of a backstory. So the first family restaurant was Annie's in Luverne, Alabama. And that was started when I was one. My father and mother were in the mobile home industry, manufacturing, selling, and they actually had a mobile home and a mobile home park right behind the restaurant. So I've never known much else besides restaurants. I did do some military time and got out, and when I came back to the house, Dad said, "We really need you at the Catfish House" at the time. And that's when I fully got involved. That would have been 2003.
Okay. So before, you spent some time in the military?
I did.
Tell me a little bit about that. Where'd you go? Did you? Yeah.
No, I was mechanized infantry, 3rd ID, and, did my time. I joined with my wife at the time, and she was small arms repair. And like most military families, we're always separated. Not good for young married folks.
Sure,
and,
sure.
That didn't work out.
Yeah.
We became friends afterwards, but did my time. And
did you join the military right out of high school?
I did. Well,
okay.
I did some. Went to Auburn, and I have always despised school. I just don't have the attention span for it. Unless it's something I want to, research and all, then I can put all my effort into it. It seems, but no, I went, had an amazing experience, did my time, got out, and no looking back.
What year was that when you got out?
That was 2003.
2003. Okay.
Yeah, 2003.
All right. So you got it.
Yeah. So got into the industry formally in a managerial position, and started taking care of the Catfish House, and then of course the big fire, and just totally wiped out the Catfish House, which, in retrospect, was probably one of the best lessons and teachers I've ever had. How do you build a building from the ground up?
Yeah.
Learning the manufacturing, learning the how you run networking, learning to do it all from the ground up was, invaluable.
And what year was the fire?
November 9th, 2003. So this is literally 6 months after I got back. They were changing a metal roof and left a Dust to Dawn light hanging. And long story short, there was 15 minutes that somebody was on camera watching the fire in their car before ever calling anyone. You could have put the fire out with a garden hose. And anyway, the inspectors come in, went right to the light, said this is where it started. This is why we know it started here. And, I guess it was a true blessing because all of our employees that had been there for 20 plus years, we just simply packed them up, sent them to the Fantail.
Yeah.
And so they never lost a paycheck.
And so question for you. So the Fantail and the Catfish House was both owned by your family. Is that right?
They were. Yeah. Yes, they were. And it was first Fantail. My father got involved back in the early 90s and went in partners with the guys that had started it and the Catfish House.
Okay.
And so he took Fantail and what they were trying to do and really standardized it, made that baby run on rails. It was a buffet at the time, and it was a workhorse. It did it to it, and it was an excellent, profitable business. So the owner of the Catfish House at the time, Emmett McConnell, gave my father, the families were close, even though they were, technically you could call them competition, but we never saw it that way. He gave Dad first offer, and 3 days later, we owned Catfish House.
Got it. Okay.
And, all good things. It's very neat and easy having restaurants right next to each other. So if you have a short on flour, you can literally go up the street and get a bag of flour, right? And, we'll solve it.
One employee doesn't show up, pull from the other. Yeah.
We try not to.
Yeah.
Of course, that happens, right? So, you do that. But, of course, during the fire, what a blessing, that your people, you don't have to lose your experienced folks. And, we just kept on rolling. And I would take guys down and we'd start doing the deconstruction of the fire and the damage and, really kept everybody pretty busy during the time. And the Fantail at the time, you want to talk about booming. That's one of the best years in history was after the fire because people started going up there, right?
Yeah, if you couldn't go to the Catfish House, you go to the Fantail, right?
Yeah, but they were counting down the days until, everything was back up and running because there are overflow customers. But that's the exception. They either love the Catfish House or they love the Fantail at the time, right? And there's very little in between,
What was the feeling like as soon as you, I guess, heard news of like the building burnt down? Like what was going through your mind?
So I was in Crenshaw County. I was visiting my mother, and this might have been, it was Sunday, maybe, I forget what time it started, maybe 5 o'clock in the evening or something. I think we made it up from Laverne. It's an hour away. I think we made it in about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
We was cruising. And we actually was able to get everything out of the freezers and out of the coolers, and we moved that all by truckload after truckload up to the Fantail and put it in the, we have huge storage spaces and huge freezers, and saved everything we could. But, what do? You just kind of go with it and
do the best you can.
Do the best you can in the situation. Try to save all the snow crab that you can save. Because it's a big dollar item. So, but
I don't think insurance covers that, does it?
It would have.
Yeah,
it would have, and we did pretty. It was amazing to me. Literally before the end of the day, the next day, all these SUVs just start swarming the place, and it looks like FBI and all these folks coming in, and these are companies that would monitor satellites and heat plumes. They know when a commercial fire takes place.
What?
Okay, yeah. There's a certain This was back in the the government's monitoring for rocket launches and stuff like that. Sure. So when you see this flame that comes up, they were tracking those. So all these companies from all over some of them around the world come in. And they start trying to get your business to bid on handling the insurance aspect of it,
okay.
Documenting for a certain percentage, right? And they maximize so they all fought between each other and bid each other.
Okay.
And we went with the lowest one. And, they would give us this book was book after book after book of every fork and knife and spoon that was lost in the fire.
Wow.
What a horrible job. I would hate doing that.
No kidding. Yeah, accounting sucks as it is.
Every nail, you're accounting for. So, anyway, interesting lesson.
So what was the plan what was the plan to go back, build bigger and better, or was it to replace, or what was the thought process there? Because you're new into management.
Sure.
You just a tragedy just happened. You're just back in the restaurant business. What was your mindset and the plan going into that?
Well, I was new into all of this, so I was just kind of following my father and Rita, my mother's stepmother's lead. They started laying out the plans. We literally, based on the plans, made mock-ups where you see them like on war tables. We're setting up the kitchen. Virtually for the and trying to see what the steps were to do this and to do that. And I was just kind of following at first, and then they started asking me questions, and I put my 10 cents in, and it baffles my mind that they listened to anything I said. At the time, I'm wet behind the ears, don't know anything of what's going on, but we decided at the time we had a little cash flow. We'd been blessed for many years, so now's the time that you fix any problems that you had, and that's when, all the bold and the high ceilings and everything on the walls, if we had little amounts of that before, now we're going to do it to it.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we did. And the
just made everything better. Yeah.
It did. And, updated, correct ventilation system, that have the correct flows. And it was a neat experience seeing it like that. But it was literally every aspect planned from the bottom up. I couldn't imagine working in chains where they, there's already plans that are already developed and evolved on. Oh, that it must be a dream to, be.
They've already got everything figured out.
Oh my gosh, yes. We're of course where you fix one thing, you break something else. Yes. Yeah. But we were still net positive, at the end of it.
Yeah. So how long from fire to reopen? What was that
it was approximately. I'm going to say 2.5, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It took a year just to get, everything deconstructed, the insurance, and start the process after the, getting the licenses. It was a long process. To me, I mean, I guess it in the grand scheme of things, it's not
That's a long time. I mean, thank God you had another business to pull from at the time.
And that is, that helped. Greatly with it. What a blessing, that we actually had that resource to, pull from.
So when it was reopened, you're still in a managerial role there.
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So talk about that.
And at the time, my father, who was late to the game, I guess he was in his 60s, mid 60s at the time. Actually, because I'm there now, had the ability to go and do a kind of retirement, semi-retirement. And so they're all gone, gallivanting around the world at the time. And I learned the intimate details. How do you run a restaurant? And at the time, we had over, 52 employees just at the Catfish House. That's not counting Fantail.
Yeah.
We had a little over, 35, I guess, at the time. And trial by fire. You learn what's going on, learn how to standardize. They're still using my forms and everything that I came up with to this day, of inventories and inventory controls, eliminating waste. And it was a really, it was a very fast time.
And so that was 2006?
Yeah, and pre-housing bubble burst. People were running around with all this money, flipping homes, doing, money was flowing at that time.
They didn't mind spending money at the Catfish House.
Oh, my gosh, right? So at the time when that opened, and, we've segued away from the Fantail, but this is all context, right?
Yeah.
Catfish House and Fantail were both neck and neck. So Friday, Catfish House would beat the numbers of Fantail. Saturday, Fantail would beat, or vice versa. But averaging almost identical, in sales. But I mean, tremendous volume. I can remember doing a little over 1,180 people at the Catfish House in 4.5 hours.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot. It's a 278-seat restaurant at the time. Think about how many times you just flip those seats. I mean, It was nonstop. And a few months later after that, the Fantail did a little bit more than that. But at the time, the Fantail was the biggest restaurant in the state. You know, we can seat over 600 on paper. And, you know, it was simply fascinating watching that many people when they're literally wrapped around the corner of the building. It's something to behold. It's a neat experience seeing
But
that.
it's neat watching it because at some point, you know, my mom owned a restaurant for a little while, and it was very, very small. Like, I mean, I think we had 25 tables, like very, very small. But even with that, you can kind of take a step back and look at it, and you can just watch it. It's just a well-oiled machine.
Sure.
Everyone knows what they're doing. It's just a constant flow. Like
If it's working, it is.
Yes, yeah. When it's working well, and there's just like this energy of everyone knows what to do, and it's almost fun. You know,
that's the dream. You know, is to have it where it is operating like that. The problem is, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get it to that point.
Takes the right people too.
Yeah, and it's not magic. You know, everybody thinks, oh, it just happens, and there's nothing further from the truth on it. Then again, you know, anything that works and it works well was probably hard to get to that point.
Yeah,
you know,
there had to be some type of design behind.
Sure.
Yeah,
there was taking some wisdom from my father, and we had a number of conversations. He decided after building Annie's from the ground up and figuring out, you know, doing breakfast, lunch, dinners, all kind of different things. He figured out it sure is a much smarter idea to go buy a business that somebody's ready to get out of it. You've already got revenue. Okay, so when you buy it, it costs more, of course, because, you know, it is a running business. But you're already paying your bills the very first day that you walk in. Yeah. You don't have to build the business up. That's what he did with the Fantail. That's what he did with Catfish House. And I'm behind him right 100% now after all these type of things. You know, oh boy, to walk in and just have it working is something. Then you fine-tune it. Then you take care of the details. You don't change stuff. You just you make that baby run on.
Well, it's kind of like the metaphor of like a big train on tracks, right? Sure. It takes so much energy and effort to get that thing moving. But once it gets moving, you can just kind of push it along.
Absolutely.
It's pretty easy. If you want to go faster, just a little bit more.
Sure.
You know.
Consistency.
That's it.
Consistency, keep it going. And, you know, that's the way. And there's always somebody that wants out of business. You know, they're ready to retire. They're tired of the, you
just got to catch them on the right day. I'm that guy.
The key. Yeah, that's right.
I'm sure you are too.
Putting that out. Yeah, if anybody wants a restaurant, you know, we'll talk one day.
Yeah, so. For sure. So how long did the housing, you know, you mentioned the last, the housing crisis of 2008, 7, depending on who you're talking to. Did that affect your business?
It affected all the businesses that I can see. I don't know where it didn't affect.
For sure.
You know, cash flow just went to nothing, you know, for the most part. And you know, people were artificially living above their means at the time. So, it affected greatly.
Did you guys start cutting back, or did you do anything different, or what was how'd you make it through that time?
Just drilled down on it and, you know, didn't really make any price increases, didn't do anything, which, you know, in hindsight, I think we probably should have done some stuff at the time. You know, when you see something just working so well for so many years, my father, my mother, they were very resistant to any type of change because you're always told if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
But when you have things happen that are outside of your control, you better be willing to embrace it, whether it's good or bad, and adjust your fire accordingly, I guess is the best way to say it.
Most people that I've talked to that have lived through tough times, they always say those that adapted that are the ones that won.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah. When change comes, if you don't embrace it, if you don't make adjustment,
don't fight it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just figure out how to win.
Absolutely,
you know?
That's right.
So
when all of that occurred, you know, that was a big, you know, negative. And it still worked. You know, it was still very profitable. Everything was running well. Then the oil spill. You know, a lot of people have forgotten about that BP oil spill. And that was tough, especially for our industry. You know, the Fantail buffet was made possible because of the availability of the shrimp and the products that are coming out of the Gulf, specifically oysters, specifically shrimp, and you have catfish that was all around, which is a whole nother animal. There was this big to-do about these import catfish and sourcing and where do you get this and that. There were a number of problems around those time frames that, came up in our industry. Big issues that you have to adapt and you have to go through. Of course, all artificially created.
Yeah.
Creating a problem where there wasn't really a problem. It's just people fighting change.
Yeah.
So, but that oil spill, we saw our prices, literally double overnight. $45 for a 7-pound gallon of oysters. And it went to over $105, I can remember, for a 7-pound gallon of oysters.
Yeah.
Literally everything just doubled. What do you do with that? Because that's your three. You got shrimp, catfish, and the fried oysters. They are your items that bring them in. And you just took one of those legs out from under the stool.
Yeah.
You better be ready to fall, So it was awful.
And so did you pass that cost down to the customer? Did you try to absorb as much as you could, or?
Heck no, I wasn't in charge at that time. Not doing that.
Okay.
I was at the catfish house, and it was easier for us to adapt to it because the prices were set on the price on a per plate type of deal. The Fantail was all you can eat. Yeah. I think we were at $15.99 for the buffet, all you can eat oysters, and.
We're in the South. There's some big boys. Yeah.
Oh, my God. You could see the change coming out of our pockets, when that's happening. But it ended up, I think, being the nail in the coffin for the buffet aspect to, what the Fantail was.
If it's not profitable, you can't make it make work.
Sure. But I'm at the catfish house and doing manufacturing and machining at this time. I had, split off a little bit, was still active with the businesses and, wasn't as with it. I had managers that I had trained to do a lot of the work while I'm developing other businesses at the time.
Okay.
And should have not done any of that, in retrospect, and I actually went back to the Fantail and started the process of evolution.
Okay.
That should have been the day after the oil spill, or at least before the subsidies started coming out.
Sure.
A lot of the seafood producers at that time, they were literally making more money subsidized than going out and doing the fishing and doing the oystering and,
Expand on that a little bit because I'm not quite sure I completely understand. What do you mean by subsidizing the products that they're selling?
So when the oil spill occurred, okay, there's this big liability thing. And all of these producers that were around the Gulf, they started receiving money from BP, for the losses of business and this, and they can't fish it, so BP's coming out of pocket. Big time money's flowing, right? And the folks were getting so much money that why would they go fish?
I was about to say, if they're paying me to sit here, why would I
go fish?
Yeah.
So you see all these big oyster processing facilities and all that. They're still brand new. They got beautiful locks on the gates and vines all over the gates now because they literally got out of the business after doing all this. And where there's a vacuum created, somebody's going to fill it.
Yeah.
And they did. They started doing all that, but prices were really, you talking about a supply and demand nightmare. Oh my gosh, it was awful. We had many a time that we didn't know if we was going to get, any kind of product.
Yeah.
And what you did get, shrinkflation, it went from 7-pound gallons of oysters to a 5-pound, so you just imagine a bucket filled with 7 pounds, which is almost the entire bucket, a little bit of liquor from the oysters, down to 5 pounds weighed, and then they fill the rest up with the liquor. But you're paying the exact same price that you were for the 7 pounds. So there's shrinkflation right there,
It's a real thing. A lot of people,
Absolutely.
We're seeing that in our times right now, that you feel like you're paying more for less of the product that you're getting. But, I see it all day, every day,
Sure.
just in different things,
You are, except for one place. Fast forward to Epicure in Jackstown. If you come there and you pay for it, you dang sure going to get what you paid for. And, big, big, big. That's
so when did you, so when was that jump? When, because Fantail closed.
Sure.
All right. So what year was that?
We never closed.
Oh, Fantail never closed?
No, I don't know where this even comes from. So
I guess I'm wrong too then.
We never closed, not one day other than the forced closures for COVID.
Yeah.
Right. So
talk about that before we jump into the Jack, because I want to spend some time on, what you're doing, but how was,
So that time, this was in 19, maybe tail end of 18. Fantail was not doing good, and our manager that had been there for years and years, he passed away. And I got the call to duty. My father, came to the machine shop one day and said, we need you over here, or we're going to have to do something. And he said, would you start paying attention to it? And I got involved, and wow, what a nightmare. It was in poor shape, and of course the pricing and all hadn't been kept up with like it needed to. Quality was way down, and the saying, if the cat's away, the mice will play.
Yeah.
Oh man, it couldn't get no more true.
Were you still doing the buffet model at that time?
It was, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And all the equipment's broke. The building it was a nightmare. I don't wish this on my worst enemies, and it was tough. So I got back involved, and at the time, my wife was helping me pick and pull and do QC on parts and stuff, and we had a very frank conversation that, we can't do both of these.
Yeah.
And, of course, the machine shop really started doing well. You're only dealing with 3 or 4 employees that are very skilled versus, 40-plus that are unskilled, entry-level jobs,
That may show up, may not.
Yeah, it was, it was a hard decision, but it was the hard decision, but the right decision.
How did you weigh the options on that? Was it,
Okay, so
yeah,
the Fantail paid for Catfish House, paid for all of the other things we've done, paid for my father's retirement. So you go back to what has a history of working, and you refine it, and you figure out how to make it work. What do you need to do?
Did you almost see it as a challenge?
Well, not at that point.
Not at that point. Okay.
Not at that point. I thought it would just, okay, we'll just get everything streamlined again, and and then we'll just keep on trucking with it, right? And once I really got involved, it slapped me in the face the reality that this is not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely, it can't work in this form. The world is a different place. What do we do now?
All right, so when you made the decision to dive in and I'm going to make Fantail great again, did you go full force into that and do away with machine shop, or is that
We literally closed the machine shop. It was right adjacent to us, and started selling equipment. And you either do one or the other. That there's not enough energies.
No, I'm a big believer of that. Yeah.
So, and if the Fantail is successful, I can always get back into manufacturing.
Yeah.
It's not, that will take care of itself if it works, right? But if you try to do both, they're both going to fail ultimately, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
And so we got back involved, and every minute of every day is invested in that business. This was for years. And actually, a bad decision, one of my bad decisions.
We all make them. Yeah.
Yeah. I own it, and let's move on from it. We decided, let's freshen up the business. Let's redo the buffet. Let's put granite tops. Let's make it nice, and things like that. And we started the process, the renovation, freshening it, bringing in a new market, innovating, right? But on the buffet idea. And that came from my family. very resistant to change. You can't argue with success over so many years. How can you tell somebody that's now in their, 80s that you don't do that?
Yeah.
Because how do you think they have succeeded? It's based on this format.
Yeah, when you've got something that has provided so much, and this is the model, why would you change it?
Sure, and we all get, more stuck in our ways. The older we get, it's hard to see anything else, right? So against all of my, now I see it as wisdom and my gut instinct, we said, okay, well, let's do that. So we put in all this new buffet and, changed to 3-phase to be a little more efficient, granite tops. And literally 2 weeks after opening the brand new buffet, and we're going to revamp this and bring it up from the ashes, right? COVID. And right. And so they shut down the forced shutdowns when we all had to stay at the house. Yeah. Of course, when they said you got to stay at the house, we said, there's no possibility. We literally never stopped when everybody else stopped. We went in, got the forklift, took the buffets out, dug a hole in the back. They are still down behind the restaurant in the earth, and we were slowly building on top of it.
Yeah.
And they're gone. Okay, so now here's our ideas. This is what we're going to do.
So you use COVID as almost an opportunity to totally revamp.
Yes, and we were so far in the hole, we didn't have much of a choice. You better drill down and make it work. Now's the time when you don't have customers that are coming out to eat. What better opportunity to make it?
What made you totally, for lack of better words, give up on the buffet model when you've only had 2 weeks to see if it would work?
So the real driving factor was the universe is trying to tell me something. Right? There's no better opportunity than right now to come back and do something new, which we already knew needed to happen, because had we gone up with the prices as we, should have to really make the buffet work, it would have already priced itself out of the market, in my opinion. And it's a losing, if you look around in the world today, that type of buffet doesn't exist for a reason, And I keep, on social media and all this, everybody wants to tell you how to run your business, of course. But the reality is, if it worked, wouldn't other people be doing it?
There'd be a lot more people. Yeah.
Sure. And if they're not, well, jump in there, folks. We would be the very first. I've told numerous people, and I think they believe I'm being a smart aleck or something to them, but if they start a buffet like that, with that type of format and that type of food, fresh seafood.
I was about to say the quality, right? We're not talking about bagged macaroni and cheese. We're
all
talking
fresh breaded in-house. That's the key, is to do it all internally, right? Yeah. You're not buying it in a bag that came from China pre-breaded. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And if they was to do that, I'd be the first one in that line to give them the support, because I know they're going to need all they can get, especially with that. And it's a different eating style. It's a different group of folks. And, we were very blessed with that group. It's not the way forward, I think.
Well, I think you have generational changes too.
Absolutely.
All
we hear is, unhealthy this and unhealthy that. And, as Americans, we're overweight compared to the rest of the world, right? Yeah. So it is in your mind, and I think it's beat into there from, early on.
Well, I think, for my generation and the generations coming up, one of the trendy words is experiences.
Sure.
You got everything's about an experience. You want a great experience.
Absolutely. And that's what a lot of the world is missing right now, right? Is experiences. So, we made the decision to switch, and what a tough decision. Another huge failure, but biggest, mistake, I think, probably to date, as far as, Fantail and Epicure is considered, or is not ripping that dang sign down right then and changing the name. Of course, the wisdom is you've got 30 years of name recognition, right? Who would why would you hurt that, right? And take the name down. You've got generational connections to, children of the, all down the line, right? These people and of course, the folks that are closest to you, you got to watch. You got, they'll try to stay in their comfort zone, which is, keep the name as what it is. You've got this developed history on it. But that's not true. A brand is good until it's not.
Yeah.
Right. And if you change something that's been around for, 30 years, there's an expectation.
Well, imagine,
a deviation of expectation.
Yeah, imagine
right?
like getting a Coca-Cola and all of a sudden it tastes like Pepsi, but it says Coca-Cola on it.
Sure.
I wouldn't buy it again. It's not the same. Like I wouldn't do it.
Coke had that problem when they changed the formulation. What a battle. You still hear stuff about that, right? So,
but that in a nutshell was kind of what you were trying to do with Fantail. Was like, hey, even though we've been this fantastic buffet, this destination spot, we're not doing the buffet anymore. Sure. Where you're going to sit down, you're going to do all this stuff, but we're still Fantail, and everyone's like. Sure. No, I want Coca-Cola.
That's right? Absolutely. And, it's it seems like a reasonable assumption, that people will eventually come to the table, nobody likes change, especially when they feel like it's forced on them. But eventually, reasonable minds will prevail. Oh, no, nothing's further from the truth, especially when you get an emotional attachment to something, in particular. Food is very emotional, right? And you take these stories that I hear personally. I can remember going to my grandmother and my grandfather's, their last anniversary before granddad passed away. These are events that occur at the Fantail. Right. And you hear all these different stories. It's very, very emotional. And it is tied to people's beings. They feel, that's the perception. So when you change something that is so personal, you literally are attacking them is the way it's, and you want to talk about some vitriol and, oh my gosh, I have been called everything, it's, I just kind of go with it now.
I mean,
a big believer. If they're not talking about you, you really should start worrying at this point. So
one of the things I've heard, and I always kind of wondered about it. You being in the restaurant business, what I've heard and what I outsider opinion, I almost think it to be true. If you could reopen a restaurant like every 2 years, you would be successful. If you could figure out how to financially do it to bring that new, people would come to the new. Because one of the things I've seen with trendings with restaurants is that like as soon as it opens, you have this flash flood of people, and then it just kind of the newness wears off.
Sure.
What about that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I don't know that I agree on that.
Okay.
There's something to be said for evolving with the time. Okay. You keep what's good. You change what's not good. And, that can be, we're in the process of doing some of that now with menu changes and things like that. Either it works or it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And I'm the worst about having a darling item that I just love that. I just feel like everybody should love that item. But you can't give it away.
Yeah.
And I have held on to those items way longer than I should have. At some point, you got to make peace with it and say, it doesn't work. Let's look at the actual numbers. What's selling? What's moving? What's the price points? And then that's what you focus on.
Yeah.
And then you can throw some little things in there to meter the market and see what, interests are. But you dang sure better be willing to evolve and look at what they're actually interested in.
Yeah.
And that's hard when you have a vision or your vision, right? Nobody can be in your head.
One of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was from one of my first business coaches. And he told me, he said, what you have to understand is nobody cares what you think.
Sure, that's right.
And that's always stuck with me. And like, I'm to the point, I don't even care what I think. I look at what works and what people love, sure. and I cater to that, so.
Everything begins as an idea, right?
Yeah.
And you got to put that idea into the world. And again, it either works or it doesn't work. Don't get attached to it. It's not personal. It feels personal, but it's not. People are going to like what they like, and if they like one of your ideas, well, fine. Call that a win, and the rest, you better be willing to let it go.
For sure. Oh, excuse me. So tell me a little bit about the Fantail.
So,
Or not the Fantail, but...
Epicure.
Yeah.
Epicure. So, once we decided well, let me go back just a little bit. So we were Fantail. We were trying to embrace the name, and, we're going to push through the change and the vitriol and all the, negative of changing a brand or changing style from what you're recognized to be doing. And I kept having these customers come in. I mean, this is day after day, week after week. They walk in the door, and we are advertising at the time, right? But they walk in the door, and I can see this. It's a look that people have. They're new. I could pick out every single new customer in the crowd. Crowd of 100, I could tell you exactly which ones are the new ones. They have the same, kind of look, and they look around, and they're like, what? Are we in the right place? We've actually had people walk back out the door, and we went and said, hey, is anything wrong? They're like, we're trying to go to the Fantail, or is this it? I'm like, it is. They're like, it doesn't look anything like it used to. I was like, well, that's the intent, So there's a lot of changes. They start seeing them, and the ones that come in organically, they've heard it on Facebook or this or that, or somehow they decided to come out.
Now, during this time, it was still named Fantail?
It was.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was still named Fantail. And I kept hearing these things, and they'd say, gosh, I've heard that it's so different, and you're doing this and you're doing that. But we had no idea this is what was happening. We didn't understand this, because every time that we think about Fantail, we think about the buffet, and we're not buffet people. We didn't really like it. It was fine. We'd go every now and again, but it wasn't our style, I guess, is the best way to say it. We heard that over and over and over and over and over. And I try to make a point personally. Glenn, our partner, Becca, we all try to talk with the customers and understand them and hear them personally, especially the ones that are really fun to talk to.
Yeah.
We have some really neat people that come
yeah.
in. And so when you hear that over and over, you're like, we're missing something. And that goes back to, I knew the day that we were switching, that sign should have come down. Of course, listening to all my loved ones, my father, all the people that I'd really respect, wanted to keep it as it is. And I said, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah.
And so years later, of course, we figure out it's time. Yeah. So we started this rebrand, coming up with a name. How do you do it? The folks that were already eating with us, they're the ones paying the bills, right? And, we've already got a good base. But because of the new people coming in and hearing that, we just didn't know what was happening. We didn't know this is what y'all were actually doing. I said, one morning I woke up and it snapped in my mind. I said, do you know how many folks we are missing out on because they still are having the name association to the Fantail and the buffet? So
I was one of those people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because,
name recognition is great until it's not, right?
Exactly.
So we had to change it. And we had an advertiser that, started bringing us some terminology, and we started going back and forth. And somehow Epicure resonated with us. And a lot of people don't know what that means. And we have been on a mission to train people what Epicure means. And in essence, it's a foodie. But Epicure fits exactly what we're doing, our style of eating now. We have specials, Fridays and Saturdays. Every week, you could come out and eat something you have never eaten in that restaurant before. Okay. That suits a certain crowd of people and a certain type of dining experience, You can also come out and you can get the fan favorites, the steak that you've always liked when you go there, or, pick which one it is. You can get that item. You have the common ones, and then you have the adventuresome eating.
Yeah.
And that ranges from Asian fusion to, Tex-Mex to Italian, which is one of our big ones. And authentic Italian.
Yeah.
You know, Glenn comes from New Jersey, and if you don't cook in a certain way in New Jersey, where you have all of these immigrants, right off the boat kind of immigrants, then you won't be around much longer, because there is an expectation. When you have Italians, you dang sure better cook like Italians do.
Yeah.
Right? So what people call Italian around here, as a general, idea, is nothing further from the truth. I thought I hated Italian until I started having actual authentic Italian. And, we have made that a big, portion of our menu. It's actually worked. I have been very pleased with it.
Yeah.
So we do a big fusion. There is no telling what you can come get, with us.
Yeah. And I think you're catering to, like, from me listening to you, you're catering to the people that had those memories and that emotional connection with Fantail by offering that fan favorite food.
Sure.
Like, because now the memories will start of, like, every, after Sunday church or, that Saturday, we always went and got steaks. We always went and got, fried oysters or whatever it was, But also for the people kind of like me, if I go out and someone has a special, that's what I get.
Sure.
I don't ask any questions, because I want the new experience every single time. Yeah.
So that hits on one of the biggest things, the biggest aspect of what we do now, how we identify ourselves. What are we to be Epicure and Jack's Tavern? And lessons learned, right? So we had all these, we're still going through the hardships of these memories and, making big changes and big moves. What causes those troubles? What creates those attachments? It is the memories. It's the personal aspect of it. It's, creating those experiences that when you're on your deathbed, these are part of the things that, you're reminiscing, in your life, these photos, kind of stuff. It's huge, right? And Epicure and Jack's Tavern is trying and pushing to create those memories. You got the dollars on the walls and ceilings. That is creating personal attachment for our customers. Yeah. That's creating long-term customers by knowing them personally, having the drawings from the kids on the walls. They want to sit at the table where their drawing is from when they were 3 years old and they did something so it would go on the wall, right? So we're working on the next generations.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time, but it's already started. Like, it's simply amazing watching and talking to these folks that we have really got to know well over the last, I'm going to say 2 years, 3 years. And anytime somebody's in town, they're there eating.
Yeah.
We are the place that they're bringing the folks to have experiences, to have this food adventure, I guess it is. And, the conversations that we have, and I mean intimate conversations, where they've lost somebody, close to them. We know most of that as it happens. If we don't see a customer for a while, we'll generally have their phone number and call them and check on them, you know. And that's good. That it's neat being a part of other people's lives like that. That's what, in a social media, world, we need the personal connections, and that's part of what Epicure and Jack's Tavern is about, is creating those personal connections and memories, and
When did the actual name change come into effect?
Well, I guess we're still not there, right? The sign come down the other day.
Yeah, well, it's coming, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. So it's all in process, and it's more difficult than it seems at first to do all these, the name changes, right? You've got, of course, Facebook and all that, and all the pages and everything tied to it.
But it's the menus, it's the shirts.
It is, sure. It's a process.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating maybe 2-3 more weeks, and we should have the new sign up, and that is when I will say, okay,
Yeah, it's finally here.
We're done. Yeah, we're done with the name change aspect.
We've talked about the Epicure a lot. And we talked about the food offer, the experience offered. Jack's Tavern. Mm-hmm. That's a very new thing, right?
It is. So that's all learning lessons, right? So
where did that idea come from first, before you get into what it is?
So the idea came from, okay, if we're creating memories, right? And you have food memories, eating like an epicure would eat, a foodie, and, appreciating fine food and drink. Well, that's one thing. Okay, so then we figured out that, folks like live music, but they also think that epicure is a little too fancy for them, whether you think it is or not, and we try to be, non-pretentious, everyday kind of people can come out and have an elegant dinner, have fun, have top-notch food and quality. But some people are totally taken aback by that. Yeah. It's too fancy for them. I'm a man's man. I don't eat like that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So Jack's Tavern is the answer to that. It is a tavern. It's inspired, we've all put our 10 cents in, but I in my little simple mind, I have these visions of these taverns that I have experienced all over the world with my father, and the warmth, and where everybody in there knows everybody. The cheers kind of feeling, right? It's a different type of intimate, and that is what Jack's Tavern is about. I mean, it's named after my dad because let me go back. Dad didn't think steaks would work. He didn't think a number of things would work, and I will prove him wrong as long as I can. So I've even named the place after him. So if it, at least a portion of it. So it, that is the continuation of developing these little pockets of intimacy. Yeah. You can come in, and what's your style? We can cater to that style. Yeah. It's a common menu. We thought we were going to split the menus and do, Jack's Tavern is going to be more tavern food and, simplistic eating.
Yeah, because to me, it's almost like you're creating with Jack's Tavern those core memories that will never change.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jack's Tavern is where I go get that burger, or I go get that steak, or I go have that beer, and it never changes. Epicure is for, maybe the more new experiences and that revolution of always being better.
Sure. And that's my thoughts, Becca's thoughts, Glenn's thoughts going into it. We couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. You start with something, and then, again, let's, trial and error, you figure out. We thought we were going to have split menus. Oh, that's an utter failure.
Really?
We're handing out, no, you take them the tavern menu, and they're like, no, I want a steak. Right? These are the folks that literally had wings the day before, right? So, okay, every time we go to a person, we're handing out 2 and 3 daggone menus, right? So a few weeks back, we decided that is stupid. We're going to consolidate the menu. I shrink the text, and you get one menu. You still get 2 menus because we have special menus too.
Sure.
So, but that has worked marvelously. So you've got the tavern food you can get there at Jack's Tavern or over at Epicure, and everybody's happy because the folks that eat the steaks and the Epicure special items, the wife only wants a Philly cheesesteak. Or vice versa, right? So you can come in and you can pick the environment that you want. It can be home, family style eating. It can be watching live music, and at any given time, we'll watch folks that come in, they want to have some, family time. And then as soon as mom and dad have left, they sneak over to the tavern. And get on the couches, right? Yeah. And they continue, and now it's date night and continuing because the kids just went home with grandmama and granddaddy.
Yeah.
And they stay and have a good time, and it's a whole nother deal. But under one roof.
Yeah. Like that. And how many beers are on tap there?
50.
50,
yeah. And
don't take Busch Light off. I know it's a common
It's already gone.
Oh, God.
It's already gone. You want me to tell you the trick to that? To keep something on tap?
Yeah. got to buy a lot,
Yeah,
right?
right. See, there you go. The proof's in the pudding. So, I have these folks, and we'll bring in their darling items, and my stipulation to them is, and to yourself, would be, if you want it to stay, you got to make it work, right?
Yeah.
You got to be part of the solution.
Yeah. Which I didn't, I think I'm one of the oddities that I just prefer Busch Light. I'm just a simple man.
Okay, so look, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, if you like that, I can probably put you on something that's going to be at least somewhat similar.
I'm not a picky guy. So, but one of the things I do want to talk about too is that most or all locally sourced as far as like your food products and things like that? Like what does that look like for you?
So it's not anything like I would like it to be. However, all my wishing won't fix our situation and our area. We do have local products. All of our grits are produced locally by friends. Actually, the wife of the fella that built our bar, they own the grit company.
Really?
Over in Wetumpka.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just phenomenal. Amazing product. And you get what you pay for. It does cost a little more, but I would daggone sure rather pay for that and have the product and you can absolutely tell the artisan nature of it.
Yeah.
And the fella that delivers it is the one that was actually making the grits. Yeah. I can appreciate that. The honeys that we use, they're local. We try to get some jams and stuff like that. The problem is that's about the extent. We've got some local farmers and produce and stuff like that, and we get into that, but it varies greatly. There's not enough production in our area, to supply. It's not like we have a fish market or something like that. We're having to get stuff out of Bayou La Battery, which I still technically consider local.
Let's fix this. Say that's pretty local. It's not like it's getting shipped from China or anything like that.
That's right.
Like it came from just a different local.
It's local. Distant local, I guess it is. And, the beer, one of our biggest pushes is the local breweries.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt that they have amazing beer.
No, it doesn't.
They do a good job. And we try to push as much local and, it seems to work pretty good. Our pecans and all are local. We candy them in-house. We roast them. All the different processes that we can do, we do in-house. But I wish there was more suppliers.
Yeah. But I think it's safe to say that almost everything you do is in-house as far as the product you deliver.
For the most part. Yeah. It's a lot easier.
Because, I had some mozzarella the other day that was in-house.
There's
amazing.
nothing like it. It's...
Yeah.
That's...
If you could have butter and cheese mix, like that's what I'd get.
Oh, my gosh, right? So, to that point, a lot of people around here haven't a clue what all that is about, right?
Yeah.
And, I like to think I'm open-minded, we've all got our, areas where we stick, but we are pushing, to try to get people to try different things, and that's tough. That is the challenge that, I have been told a number of things wouldn't work at the restaurant, and every single one of those things are the driving force behind the restaurant now.
Sure.
And are the ones that have produced. So,
because most of the ones that speak up are the small minority anyway, if you notice in most things, right?
Yeah.
It's like the silent majority always wins, Yeah.
I've gotten pretty good about filtering, not that you are dismissive, I try to empathize and understand.
Sure.
But you'll go broke trying to appease everybody.
Yeah.
But there is a common thread somewhere that you can pull on, and that will get you where you need to be.
It's tough not to like a good steak.
It's tough. It is tough. Now, so, we, Becca, me, and Glenn, and actually all of our families, we do a lot of business local with restaurants. That's how Glenn and us even met, was sitting across the table from each other and being able to talk about restaurants.
Yeah.
And a common kind of challenging atmosphere. And I don't think enough people do that. I think there is and I think it's ignorant, but, you want to know your competition. You want to see them. You need to know their families. You need to know their struggle and understand them and help, because actually everything that we've done that has been worth anything has come from knowing and being friends with your direct competition.
Yes.
And it's not for, it's not to take advantage. It's literally knowing the folks, you see things differently.
Yes.
And when you can empathize and see, the Catfish House, why did Emmett McConnell come straight to my dad the first time? They had a good relationship. They're direct, competition, but it's amazing, when we get over ourselves and the ego.
Yes.
And, it's amazing what kind of opportunities, are out there.
I can definitely understand that, especially coming from the real estate industry.
Sure.
Where egos, oh my gosh,
Sure.
it's ridiculous, And I think you have to have an ego to be successful and things like that. You have to have that confidence and that drive, and ego drives that a little bit. However, with the mastermind groups I'm in and the local collaboration and things like that, things sprout out of that would not have come in any other way if we did simply not look at each other as mortal enemies and just said, hey, what are you working on? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And be able to collaborate that way.
That's scary to a lot of people. It's scary. They don't want to, I don't want to give a secret away, I don't want to give the secret ingredient. I hear people say that, and I'm like, that is about as ignorant as it comes.
Agreed.
Any cook, any chef that is worth anything can copy any item that any other person has done. It doesn't take but a couple tastes. Mm-hmm. If you've watched an experienced chef, they already know what's in it. They can reproduce that. They can reproduce the texture. So if you go into it with a real protectionist attitude, I think it's a fault.
Well, you're protecting yourself from opportunity too.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah,
and so
sure.
it's no different than the secret sauce is not the product or the food or it's who the person is and how they do it.
Sure.
It's because even in real estate, everyone's like, well, there's got to be a secret sauce or, there's got to be a shiny object. It's not. It's just the person that works more and has more conversations.
Absolutely.
And for you, it's the atmosphere of Epicure, the hometown feel of Jack's Tavern. You know my name when I walk in the door. You have something new for me every time. You cater to me. That's the secret sauce. That's where the success comes from.
It's all of the details.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. But people want to break things into black and white, and there's a lot of gray. There's more gray than there is black and white, right?
Yes.
And there's a more better or less better, way of looking at things. So,
For sure. Where do you see, what plans do you have moving towards the future? Of course, finish the brand of Epicure, get that name change, the sign up, all that fun stuff.
So, you got the name change and, that all being settled. Then it gets into a true form of standardization, I guess is the best way to say it. And, working on the behind-the-scenes documentation and the details. Okay, this is procedurally how we do this, right? And my wife will be one of the first to tell you, there's only one constant at Epicure and Jack's Tavern, and that's change.
Yeah.
And that's usually I'm in there forcing. They'll come in and a table's totally where is everything, right? And it's in the name of optimizing, though they don't believe that all the time. Status quo to me is, something we need to strive to not have, because there is usually a better way up to a point.
Sure.
Right? And then diminishing returns after you've gotten to that point. We have literally developed our entire kitchen. It's huge. Most people, when they walk in their kitchen, they're like, oh my God, But we have been working on the ideas. We would like to get into all of the breads being produced at the restaurant. All of our desserts are already produced at the restaurant. All of our meats are aged and cut in our restaurant. So we want to control all of the different items all of the qualities in-house, and buy as many raw ingredients as we can, realistically, locally. We're fairly well pinched on that, but it should all start and originate the quality and all the items there at the restaurant. So aging the steaks and all, that was
so almost like in a roundabout way, by bringing more change, you're eventually going to lead to where it's more consistent in that quality, right?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And we want to control all the aspects of it, and then any of the changes that we do need to put in place, we have control. We're at the source.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the change. This is, and, again, standardize the means of doing
That's probably
that,
a better
right?
word, is standardizing everything that you do, Yeah.
Recipes, chefs don't need recipes, they do what they do. Glenn, it baffles my mind. It's like a magician making, I'm just like, how did you do that? And it's just fabulous food. And I'm like, did you write that down? And he said, well, I don't need to write it down. I know what it is. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I don't understand that, right?
Yeah.
So we're at a point now where everything needs to be standardized out so that it can be, if you got somebody sick for the day, they need to be able to make
that way he can, train another chef to where he can maybe have a weekend off, maybe.
Vinaigrette can be made by me, by Becca, by Glenn, by Josh, any of the folks that are involved with it. We can do that. And so the future is to begin the standardization process of our product. And, ultimately, I'd like to trim down the menu. We're still in that transition where people are learning what we do.
Yeah.
So we have a very extensive menu. We're still evolving and training. Training our customers is exactly what we're doing. Training them what to try and what beers you actually like, even though you say you don't like an IPA. You actually probably do. You just haven't had the right IPA and the right, So we're in the process of actively training the customers on what they actually like, but they don't know it. We're also closed-minded. Ultimately, it takes work to be open-minded and try different things. And we're not above bullying. We'll bully them a little bit into it, So, but the other, our employees, everybody else has been screaming about labor. Can't get good workers, can't do this, can't do that. Let me just tell you what, while they're screaming, and of course we have labor issues also, but it's nothing like these other companies. We've retained almost every single person that we've had, and the ones that are gone now, we're still on good terms. We still talk. They had a step up. I'm not going to hold them back from a step up. That's not the way. But, we have tried to, in our little way, push the industry into a different style of employment. All of our workers make well over average for the area, just as a baseline. That's their starting point. We offer health care. We have all kinds of
because
things.
I think most people look at the restaurant industry as like a stepping stone, so to speak.
Sure.
And what I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing from you is you're saying, no, this can be a career.
I think it needs to be looked at as a career.
Yeah.
And it needs to be looked at, in a professional manner. When somebody shows up every day to work, this could be washing dishes, the very mundane, deals. They can do that as a professional, and they do. In 5-star restaurants, you've got a dish man back there.
Yeah.
Right. And they need to have value. They need to feel their value. And, we're working on developing a culture,
Sure.
of respect. And I don't think that has existed. Not really in the industry, at least not where we're at.
I was about to say, I think in your area, not in your area, our area, I don't think that You go to some larger cities,
Sure.
and I think that's a different story. You know what I'm saying? Like people
Sure.
aspire to be at a chef at that
Sure.
restaurant. They aspire to, be
That's right.
a hostess at that restaurant.
That's right.
From the Panhandle of Florida, there's some restaurants down there. It's a very the restaurant or the service industry there is looked upon very, very differently
Sure.
than it is here.
That's right.
Because of what and I think what you're offering to our area exemplifies that, where it can be a career and
It needs to be
Yes,
looked
yeah.
at like that. And for consistency.
Yeah.
How do you retain people? How do they retain people in these giant corporations? They offer benefits, they offer this, they offer that, and a certain, it's horrible to go work somewhere where everybody's upset and walking around with a scowl on their face all the time. That's who wants to, I'd want to stay home too then,
Yeah.
But we actually walk in the door and most everybody's in a good mood. Everybody has boyfriend and girlfriend problems and wife problems and,
Life
children.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life happens, right? But for the most part, they're very supportive of each other. And, we have a lot of the workers that are very close and keep up with each other outside of work. And I think that's important. That's what we need to do. And,
Well, those are the ones that are, making Epicure that is part of the brand.
Sure, absolutely.
And,
if they come in a bad mood, it carries over,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, we don't want that.
Oh.
But we're still developing that, and that's just it's scary to the right answer's not always the easy answer. It's usually tough, and so doing
What's
the
the-
benefits,
yeah.
doing the rates, it costs something. You know what it costs? It costs us, and it's worth the risk and it's worth the fear of not making ends meet to see people thrive around you. Because if we succeed together,
Yeah.
now we've succeeded. If we as owners of the restaurant succeed and they're miserable,
It's a ticking
that's
time
not,
bomb at
that's
that
not
point.
what I can go do other things, and it's not the legacy that I feel is accurate or that I want to portray. And it is a different time in the world now. I think people need to feel value more than ever. None of them have. It's a tough time for people. I think now, especially the ones that are in these entry level jobs. So we're trying to give them the opportunity to do and to be, something of respect. And
I think people are looking for hope now more than ever.
sure,
And I think through hope, it's that value, right? Like and what I mean by hope is that I think they're looking for ways of that this doesn't have to be like this all the time, that I
Sure.
could amount to something, that there is value down
Absolutely.
the road, and there's a future, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because I
Yeah.
feel like from a lot of different angles, people are trying to pressure down on that.
Yeah, sure,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and this happens all the time, but every time I hear it, I'm like, God, what, really? We'll have workers and people that will bring up Becca and the restaurant, and they'll say, I actually feel heard. Becca and them, they actually love us, and all these positive words. I'm like, really? That's saying something, that they actually are saying that. Now, this is in forums that are outside of us. We just happen to hear about this, or we'll hear that third party from a customer that is just now coming back, and they said, such and such was telling me they worked down here, and they just had nothing but rave reviews and loved working for y'all. So we decided to come back out and try this again. We always thought about the buffet.
Yeah.
And when you hear that, it's a little bit of we all like it, validation.
It's going back to
right?
what you were talking about earlier. It's the details,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Everything you do matters. The way you treat your customers, the way you treat your
Sure.
employees, everything plays into that road of success.
That gives feedback that we're on the right path.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess we drive it in that direction.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the way forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
I may go broke, but I'm gonna
I
try
don't
it
think
either
so.
way. I'm gonna try
Yeah.
it and see if it works. But I think it's worth the risk. So.
Yeah. I think that what you're doing is fantastic, and
A lot of big plans, I guess. And, things are in motion right now, getting patios, and I have a number of ideas that I got to push beyond me with the mayor and with the city and things like that, we've got a little bit of property, if they'd work with me, I'd work with them on, and try to do some stuff to help up-and-coming restaurateurs, business owners, where, I love the idea. The more involved you are with the folks around you, I think the better we are, the more we thrive, the more options that you have, I think it's a net positive, right?
Yeah, because you don't, that's everyone, going back to the conversation we had about competition, everyone wants to, if you look at that as, competition, you don't want that. The problem is if you and I want to go out to eat somewhere, we're not going to go to one option. Sure. People like options. Absolutely. I want to go to a place where there's 5 or 6 great restaurants. And if there's 5 or 6 great restaurants, hotels are going to come in, and everybody wins that way.
Yeah, sure. So I know we are, I forget what the term was. We have a number of people that use us as their commissary for food trailers and things like that. He doesn't make any money. He just goes out and does these football games and does pigskins and stuff like that, and just a stellar human being, and puts everything into it in his downtime, and it goes right back into the community. It just baffles my mind. I'm so inspired by him. But I have a number of people that are talking to us regular, and that want food vendor trucks and things like that, and we got all this square footage, might as well, help them. And they'll say, well, how much you going to charge me for that? And I'm like, nothing. Don't muddy our name. Just put your logo on there, and if this works, we'll revisit it. You're going to need all the help you can get, right, to get your name out there. So we have a number of things happening like that, and they have just been magnificent for us, helping us. And when we decided to go in business with and merge with Patriots, just out of the blue, one of these guys showed up. We didn't call them. We didn't do anything. Showed up and started loading that daggone restaurant up at Patriots Grill and helping us out of the blue, And what an amazing thing, because it was an awfully difficult move. There's a lot of big equipment and stuff, sure. And he didn't or complain about it one bit. He had a smile on his face the whole time. And I'd like to get more of these smaller businesses, involved on the hilltop where we're at there at Epicure. I think it would be really neat to have different kind of coffee shops and different kind of little food trucks and things involved, because that's more of a draw to the whole, I guess it is. And if you have a little patio and you have a little gaming area, I think, Montgomery has Blunt Park and all of the stuff they do out there, their cultural centers and things. We don't have that. Yeah. Not in Millbrook necessarily. We got the park and all that, but I want to try to get some more of the arts, music, different things like that together that we could do on that hill and bring a crowd. If they've got all these flea markets and all around that happen, every couple weeks or whatnot. Sure. I think we're missing out not doing that kind of stuff, and we've got so much area on that hilltop that I think is one of the future endeavors, is to try to get more involved in some of that.
Just give people an opportunity, give people a place to come, a destination. Absolutely. And, to where it's not just about Epicure, it's about everybody else. It's about the community.
And we love the food.
Yeah.
But I'd love to be able to walk out and have somebody else make a coffee for me, or a bowl of tea or something like that. That'd be like, full disclosure, on our date nights, we very often end up back at Jack's Tavern or Epicure. We love the food. Don't get it twisted, but we love the people. We love the customers. We can walk in there most any time. We know at least 20 to 30% of anybody sitting in that restaurant, right? Sure. And it's fun, even on date nights, to go in and have a drink. Now, we're trying to train ourselves out of a job where they'll stop asking us questions when we come in. How do I do this? How do I do that? But, that's just a goal to get it where they don't do that anymore, when our days off.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think you got some good plans. And I think that's a good place to wrap it up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Before you go, though, I do have some questions I ask everyone that come on here.
Oh, gosh.
Do you read?
Well, I've been told I'm not a good reader.
Okay. What's your favorite book?
Oh, boy. It's probably a technical manual.
Okay.
On anything that I like at the time,
Is that the Machinist and the X's and O's,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's one thing. But, I don't look at now. I used to bodybuild. I used to do training. And I will get back to that. There's only so many hours in the day and there's only so much energy, right? So that I'll get back to that. But I really enjoy reading about health. I like to understand intimately how the human body works from a chemistry standpoint, why we think the way we think, what leads us down these certain roads. I love psychology. I can't name a particular book or anything, but
You're an educational reader.
I love, yes. Yeah. I would have done a lot better in school, like, a number of billionaires, which I have the more money, more problems is my opinion. But a lot of them, when they actually had the time to just go learn and they didn't go through a curriculum, that's where they thrive. That's where they learn a lot of the more important things that they're applying because they're putting their efforts into what they find interesting.
I can relate to that.
So that's the way I look at it.
I love to think. I love to learn. I love to,
Michael Crichton books, which is kind of an old one, but anything that has some sense of plausibility with science, and I like future, and I like,
that's awesome.
Stuff like that.
If you could have dinner with anyone, past, present, or future, who would it be?
Oh, gosh. So, dinner. Probably, I would love to have dinner. I don't know that it'd work this way, but with my father, who has passed away, or my mother. My father, more or less, to rub it in his face, that we got everything going. And he was a big supporter. I don't want to say that. He was an amazing, human being.
A little bit of competition,
maybe.
maybe.
Hell yeah. I would love to feed him one of the steaks now because he started at the beginning when we started evolving everything. But, he'd be, over the moon. Right?
Yeah.
So that would be it. Anybody,
awesome.
Humans are humans. And, I can take from all the wise people, and I love reading, about, philosophy. But I'd still have a dinner with my father or my mother. They're both equally as impressive as, learning from them, learning from
They had the biggest impact for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of dinner, what's your favorite food?
Anything.
Anything?
Anything that's really well prepared. So it ranges from anything Asian, Indian, Italian, really any kind of food. I love food. I love it when somebody else is cooking the food for me. And I really evolve on it. One of my favorite things that Glenn has done as of lately is some gnocchi, and that was the other day. He made some gnocchi dumplings, and oh my God, it's my new favorite. And every time I see him and I say, that's my new favorite, he just rolls his eyes and he's like, you said that last time, but I'm like, no, you one upped. You said this is one.
So maybe like something that's just like ultra. Well, you can just taste the time, if that make any sense.
Yeah. Beef Wellington, the last one, simply phenomenal. It really changes.
Okay.
I've learned that. Like I'm not going to ask anybody around me to do anything.
I mean, that's kind of the trend with Epicure and everything else. That constant change. It makes sense for you to answer that way.
And but I never thought I would say it like that. But it's if you're going to ask somebody to do something, be willing to do it yourself and do it with a smile and do it with happiness in your heart.
Yeah.
So, and that's it. I really enjoy trying all different things, but that gnocchi was, oh my gosh, I'm still dreaming about that. I hope he does that again soon. I'll put my request in.
Yeah. So we got how you did it, but what is your why, and is it the same today as when you first started?
The why is why not?
Yeah.
It's something that I personally had a little experience in. And had seen my whole life. And I can remember being younger and saying, I am never going to work in a restaurant. I'm done. And I can also remember telling my sweet wife, I will never serve a filet mignon in any of our restaurants, ever. It's a trash cut of meat. That's why they wrap it in bacon and stuff. It has no flavor. I have eaten those words numerous times so far. And it's an evolution. Never say what you're not going to do, because that will be the next thing you have to do when you do that. And it's usually a big revelation at that time. But the why is for now and this time in life, for me and my family and my friends, it is the right decision to do it. And it's fun. It was not fun 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was not fun at all. I was looking for the out in any way I could find. But it has gotten fun. It's still work. Don't get it twisted. But it's enjoyable. And it's neat when you start seeing the momentum. You start seeing the building, the energies. When you do see those same people every week and they keep bringing in people, and then when you see the folks from Canada and Wisconsin and New York, and you literally see them every 3 months.
Yeah,
that's an impact that makes it fun and gives the incentive in my mind to stay the course and drive.
I can relate to that because I think when I first started my business, it's like I was trying to build it up. Right, like I'm dumping all my time, energy, effort, money, everything. I'm trying to build it, right?
Sure.
But now it's almost like it's got, and like you were saying with the momentum, it's like all of a sudden it takes me places.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
It has its own life.
Yeah, it's bigger than me.
Yeah, sure.
It's,
acknowledging that it is.
Yeah.
And getting out of the way.
Yeah.
And letting it do what it's going to do, and then a little nudge here and a little nudge
for sure.
there,
For sure.
Getting to that point. That's the hard part. We have plenty of hard days ahead of us. There's just no doubt, about that. And, but at least you get a little bit of that positive feedback that just keeps like, oh, okay.
Makes it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worth it.
And to that point, I ate a filet mignon last night with
tasteless cut of meat.
Let me tell you, when you take a little Stilton blue cheese and you make a compound butter and browned, and then you pour it over the top, and it imitates a dry-aged steak to perfect. Oh, my God. My eyes were rolling back. So, again, I ate my words again last night, and, that's okay. It doesn't hurt
You ever do
feelings.
brie on steak?
Yeah, so...
Is that because I do it at the house all the time. And
that would be really
brie,
good. Mr. Glenn's least favorite cheese is pretty much brie. He
okay. All right. Well,
brie.
so we're not going to do that.
Well, I just, he is the part of the business that deals with that. So there's certain concessions that we all make to coexist. Becca puts up with all of my crap, and
Glenn says no brie, no brie.
But I got an option. We got this triple cream. It's a French soft cheese. It doesn't taste like brie. It is like butter, and oh my God, it is so good. I put it on some of the charcuterie boards when they asked for it. But it's dangerous. It would be amazing.
I'm gonna have to get that soon.
Yeah,
I'll make sure and ask for that.
You just gotta ask for it.
I'm gonna ask for it.
I'll figure out a way to do it. You can even put it on a. You don't need it on the filet. The filet's gonna be good either way because it's the aging makes all kinds of differences, but it sure would be good.
Sure. Well, man, it's been fun.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for coming on.
I appreciate you inviting.
And we'll get you back on in the future. See if some of those changes happen.
Yeah, I hope so.